I've always been a sensitive individual. I've always wanted to be there to assist others, to care for them, and to help them live their best lives. I work as a nurse assistant. My job is to look after them and help them cope with their emotional and physical agony in whatever way I can. The following is my story. I came across a person who was about to die or had a slim chance of surviving, and who was utterly alone due to a variety of situations. I didn't think it was fair for him to die alone, so I decided to stay with him throughout his dying minutes to see whether it was indeed his time, and if not, to try to save him. I stayed by his side the entire night, trying to comfort him with my presence. I kept chatting to him and touched him even though he was unconscious. I wanted him to know he wasn't by himself. I stayed there for nearly 8 hours before falling asleep. It was 3 a.m., and I was holding him tight. From my chair, I was nearly lying on top of him. What was crucial to me was that he felt he wasn't alone and that someone was with him. I had just slept for a few minutes when I suddenly saw a tunnel and a blue sky covered with rose-colored clouds. It was as if the clouds were a tunnel's walls, but everything was quite ethereal. Everything was pastel colored, yet it had a gleaming, shimmering quality to it. From the front, I could see the tunnel, but I was floating. I was on top, and everyone else was on the ground. Even though I couldn't see anything but the tunnel, that's how it felt. Love. So much love and serenity was the emotional sense. Something incredible and difficult to put in words. There are no words that can adequately express the depths of love and peace. There was something that sounded like music, something lovely, but it wasn't music. It sounded like a background sound, as if it came from a moving mechanism, but it resonated like a chorus was an echo. I'm not sure how else to describe it, but it was a music. It was very lovely background sound that was emanating from all directions. According to scientists, if you have heard the sound of cosmos, it was something similar. It was breathtakingly lovely. I remember thinking how much this resembled the believer's heaven, then laughing at the absurdity. It was just stunning. The tunnel began to open in the distance, but I remained still and did not proceed. It was as though I was standing at the front door. I desperately wanted to stay there, but I knew I couldn't. Oh, it's because the patient has died, I suddenly realized. That was the trigger for him to open his eyes. I realized I was sobbing, tears of sadness for the individual, but joy for the event at the same time. Something I hadn't realized previously. I took his vital signs and discovered that he had died. I believe he died during those minutes when I was dreaming, but it felt extremely real and vivid to me. This wasn't the first time I'd had sensitive experiences, but I'd never dreamed, never thought this talk about heaven could be anything like this. It was self-evident. If it had been in my imagination, I would have come up with something completely different. I should clarify that I was in a car accident when I was approximately 3 years old and lost consciousness. I fell and smacked my head hard, collapsing to the ground. I felt like I was in a vacuum. Everything was dark. There was nothing but myself, or rather my thoughts in darkness. I was lost in attempting to find my way out of the darkness, but I couldn't. I wasn't terrified, but I was little concerned. I wanted to return, but I didn't know where to start. And while I was pondering to get back, I was guided by someone I didn't see but felt. I was hesitant to trust him, but I followed him, and when I opened my eyes, I sensed that he had followed me outdoors. It was only a few minutes according to those who were there, but I had been lost for hours. Since then, I've experienced heightened sensitivity, but I've never placed a high value on this experience. That experience never occurred to me as an NDE, but I recently read about negative or neutral experiences. I don't know what my personality was like before this accident because it happened while I was so little. But I can say that I've always had a great deal of compassion for all living things. I've gone to great lengths to avoid harming even a fly. And I view the world from the perspective that we are all interconnected, that we are all one consciousness. But aside from my strong empathy and sentiments of compassion, I'm highly analytical and realistic person. Recounting this experience has been energizing for me since it's something that we has piqued my interest, and I've been wondering if it's possible to experience another person's NDE. At the very least, it's intriguing. I'm sure the NDE wasn't mine, but I was present. Please accept my sincere gratitude for your patience. I believe it will